Hi, on this first video of mine on YouTube, I'll be addressing some of my views in some of the aspects related to Asperger syndrome. I haven't been diagnosed with it, or with anything else for that matter, but I just felt it was more than about time for me to tackle conditions like this one. Some symptoms do fit for me, while others not so much. I'm not trying to self-diagnose myself anyway, I'm just trying to exchange impressions with people that actually have been diagnosed with this condition and have to live with it. All positive and constructive feedback is therefore more than welcome. I'll go by chapters, and the first chapter inside social interaction is lack of empathy. I think empathy on itself is a rather broad term. I think people in general, all around the world, have little empathy for the next one, unless that next one is someone that is important to that person's life. I'm aware I'm just stating the obvious and repetitive statement that we live in a dog world, where the survival of the fittest cannot be more of an universal truth. As I haven't been diagnosed with the condition, I can only talk from personal experience. I share the thoughts of most people. I don't have any empathy for someone that's an absolute stranger for me. I don't see why anyone should either. However, I can be absolutely kind to someone I do not know, and be helpful in case they're in a situation requiring a little empathy from my side. Not a problem for me. I don't want to believe that people with Asperger's go totally blindfolded when put into the same situation. I guess that the main point that's attempted to be made when accusing someone with this condition with lack of empathy is the fact that they constantly struggle with their own mind, so it's harder for them to completely shut off from those thoughts and try to put themselves into the shoes of another. Then again, a question arises for me. How about the empathy for people with this condition? Is it ever properly displayed? You, people with the Asperger syndrome, go ahead and tell me what you get from people when asking for a little empathy. Do others try to understand how's it like to be in your shoes, in a daily constant struggle with a condition you could do little or nothing about, and make an effort in order to understand how hard it is to overcome all the endless obstacles that keep coming up? Or do you simply get some pity, some sympathy that has absolutely no practical use? I'm sorry if I did sound a bit bitter there, but I don't think it's fair to ask empathy from people whose life was already such a constant burden. Friendships. Just the fact of going public about your condition may already be enough of an obstacle on this matter. A necessary one though, in order to be best understood by those that will remain as friends despite all. I think that the main problems for people with the condition come down to two things: intensity and trust. As high-functioning individuals, the restlessness revolving the mind frame of these people might make it seem hard to maintain friendships without a great deal of commitment being spent off. I think that people with Asperger's may feel easily betrayed, forgotten, or abandoned for little things. And this is just because of how intense it is for them and how important it is to keep their social network going on steady and strong on a constant basis. For so-called normal people, this might be too much to handle, which is understandable. You can't really predict the length of a friendship either. This, however, will result in bitterness for those suffering from the condition, because I believe that the few friendships that they do possess, they do cherish them deeply and can't handle the thought of suddenly not having these constant people in their lives anymore. This on itself only makes it harder to make an individual with Asperger to seek for new friendships, because the thought of rejection will be the strongest one inside the mind. Sure, these things can be worked on. The social skills may be improved, but I think it's good to let the others understand that by default, this is how it works for people with the condition. Sharing. I don't think I've seen this one being mentioned before. People with the condition do sort of live in a world of their own, just like autists do, but unlike the latter, they are aware that this intense and desirable world is soon confronted with the ugliness of the real world out there, and that their little world soon will become irrelevant when put into a social situation. And for people with the condition, that's very hard to accept and to deal with. I think that for a lifetime they'll be wishing that their dream world will prevail someday. Until then, it just won't happen. And that's why I think it's hard for people with the condition to share likings and stuff alike to others. The interests are so intense that it's really difficult to bring them out to someone new and having them understanding how valuable they are. It's hard to share when you can't find acceptance over your own interests, to make yourself be taken seriously when others see you as a practical joke for being odd or perceived as weird by the majority. Socializing is the big burden for someone with the condition. Everyone does feel anxious every now and then, sure, but once it's gone normal, people can look back and laugh at how stressed up and pathetically anxious they were before whatever was to take place happened. People with the condition can't, and believe me, they wish they could. But every day is a constant struggle. The social anxiety grows for the most various things. Going to shop, going to the post, going to work, I don't know. Almost all things can be seen as extremely difficult to deal with unless there's some sort of comfort zone to rest one's mind at. And usually there isn't. I don't know if this is still related to people with Asperger's, but there's a persistent thought of being judged all the time, even for the most casual things. To have some sort of social peer pressure boiling up, making you unable to be easy about whatever it is that you have to get done and simply relax. No, this simply does not happen, at least not for me. There's a recurring feeling about being tense and a tendency to act. I'm not sure how using that term is correct, but acting in a way of repetitive and rigid behavior. Pretty much like a prison that's hard to release oneself from. So if you behave in a way, it's probable that you will stick to behaving in that way, because it's like socially your freedom becomes sort of narrowed by all of the conditions that I've mentioned before. And that's what makes social and emotional reciprocity the biggest burden. Body language. This comes on the aftermath of my last point. If the mind can be as free to express itself as it pleases, then the body will be even less. Starting with eye contact. Well, eye contact can apply to people with other conditions or even without any condition. I don't see this as an Asperger's exclusive at all. Eye contact can be as intense as maintaining a conversation for a person with the condition, though. Because the intensity that one feels makes one think that way. This is not always the case, but I'm pretty sure that in periods of bigger vulnerability, any sort of eye contact can be perceived as too engaging for someone with the condition. And with this also comes the facial expressions. The reason why both of these are poor for someone with the condition is because it's simply too different for the normal person to deal with such unusual facial body language. But in some cases it can be good, it can be seen as some sort of a trademark and give you a certain charisma. When dealing with the odd, strange person, however, it's just simply odd and unpleasant. As for the posture and gesture, this comes as a consequence for the poor motor skills that someone with the condition possesses. I think that the easier way you can see someone possessing the condition is by seeing that person sitting on a public place by itself. They'll just appear as sort of misplaced and clueless. They won't be sitting with confidence, and it's possible that their gestures come out as a bit shaky. The posture and gestures may also be limited to a certain number, because it may be hard for someone with this syndrome to realize that it's even a problem to themselves, and that coming up with more normal ways of being in public could be easier than what they actually think. So okay, this is enough for my first video. I'm not sure I've tackled the points as I desire, or if I drifted myself away too much from the actual symptoms for the condition. I mixed a little bit of my own emotions in there after all. But I hope it brings me closer to understanding what's it really like to have the condition, and that people who may have any other conditions may also see my words as more fitting to something else or some other condition and enlighten me about it. More importantly, it would be great to get feedback from people with Asperger themselves and see to which extent do they relate with my observations. I'll advance to the other chapters soon. Thanks for watching.